The detail in that footage I like a lot. Today, we turn our attention to Army Group South as we're embedded with the 1st Gebirgsjäger Division, or 1st Mountain Division, known as Edelweiss, as they make slow but steady progress into the Ukraine. We'll stay with the unit as it follows up the Ukrainian Brandenburger's operation to take and secure the city of Lviv. The history of that Special Forces unit is both interesting and controversial. If you're interested in seeing associated footage that can't be shown on YouTube, go to our website at military1945.com. Eventually, there will be a full video-on-demand channel there. You won't be disappointed. On June 21st, all units of the division were in jump-off position at 1400 hours. On the following morning at 300 hours, they moved up to the border fences, and at exactly 315 hours, the advance into enemy territory commenced. This is a situational map from the original campaign atlas for the Eastern Front for June 22nd of 1941. We're looking at Army Group South. The 1st Mountain Division was part of the 49th Mountain Corps, which included the 257th Infantry Division, the 100th Light Division, and the 4th Mountain Division, which had taken up a defensive position at Lancut, the headquarters of Army Group South. Across from the 1st Mountain Division was the Soviet 97th Rifle Division that was considered well armed but less well equipped with transport. Within minutes, the first reports came in stating that all units were advancing as planned and that as of yet, only individual shots could be heard. The enemy was taken completely by surprise. Here we see a group of men that have clearly traded in their Soviet uniforms for civilian clothing. But that first day was not destined to end that easily. This is from the memoirs of a soldier that fought with the 1st Mountain Division, written after the war. The enemy had been taken by surprise, however, they quickly managed to regroup and put up bitter resistance. The fighting intensity and losses taken by both sides put to pale our combat experiences in Poland, France, and Yugoslavia. Already in this first encounter, it was clear that we were engaged in a fight to the death. On June 24th, this is what was written in the German High Command War Diary for Army Group South. The enemy is putting up stiff resistance and often fighting to the death. Therefore, there is a limited number of prisoners being taken, but they are suffering bloody losses. Our tank forces, after engaging in heavy combat, are victorious everywhere. Likewise, our infantry's anti-tank defenses have been active and successful. The Luftwaffe generally controls the skies. The limited progress for these first days in comparison to that of Army Group Center had much to do with the fact that Army Group South only had 5 panzer divisions at its disposal. Army Group Center had 9 panzer divisions, which gave it much more offensive punching power. While the Soviets were being overrun to the north, in the south they had more opportunity to fight back. In spite of the difficulties, steady progress towards Lviv was being made. And the soldiers of the 1st surely must have had a sense of déjà vu. In September of 1939, the same division had advanced over the same territory. But at that time they were fighting the Poles. This photograph was taken on September 19, 1939, on the outskirts of Lviv, when the German and Soviet troops first linked up. The following day, Hitler ordered the troops to hand over control to the Soviets. This shows the unit moving to the west of the Vistula-San River line, which had been agreed upon in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. On September 22nd, the Polish garrison in the city would finally surrender to the Soviet forces. Notice the spears that the Polish troops are carrying. Here we see a unit of Signal Corps soldiers crossing and laying communications lines across an anti-tank trench. Traversing these anti-tank trenches would be about all the climbing these mountain troops would be doing for quite some time. To be specific, until August of 1942, when they'd be asked to climb the Elbrus. But we'll leave that special footage and story for a future video. This wonderful raw 1941 footage of the 1st Mountain Division has a runtime of 5 minutes and 4 seconds. In the winter of 1940-41, after Hitler had come to the final decision to attack the Soviet Union, the Ukrainian Brandenburger battalions Nachtigall and Roland were established and trained by the Wehrmacht. They received German uniforms, however were only outfitted with light infantry weapons. Lemberg is the German name for Lviv. The unit insignia for the Nachtigall battalion shows where they were located on June 22nd. The formation was attached to the 1st Mountain Division, which was commanded by Lieutenant General Karl Lanz. At 315 hours, the unit crossed the San River and entered the Soviet side of the city Przemysl. Over the next few days, they advanced slowly towards Lviv. As they approached the city, the Ukrainian Brandenburgers were responsible for clearing civilians out of the way of the general advance and providing cover for the 1st Mountain Division, which was coming frequently under heavy air and artillery bombardment. Now let's take a look at the situational map for June 29th to see where all the units were positioned. You can see that the Resta, or remaining elements, of the Soviet 97th Rifle Division have managed to retreat and are still a fighting force. On the night of June 29th, the Brandenburger battalions advanced against relatively weak Soviet resistance to a few kilometers east of the Lviv airport. Throughout the day, reports had been coming in from spies that had already infiltrated the city that the Soviets had begun mass executions of nationalist Ukrainians that were being held in their prisons. Soviet forces were also supposedly already evacuating the city. This is Lieutenant General Lanz. Concerned that the Soviets were laying in ambush, he rejected the suggestion that the city should be taken immediately and ordered the Ukrainian Brandenburger units to stand down. That night, further reports came in telling of new rounds of mass executions, and the anxiety among the Ukrainian soldiers had reached a breaking point. Ukrainian representatives within the units went against direct orders and unilaterally ordered the Brandenburgers to prepare to enter the city immediately. The German 1st Mountain Division was not informed. There it was divided into groups that were dispatched to strategically important locations in the city, which included the railway station, the radio station, the electric power station, the citadel, and of course the NKVD prisons where the executions had been going on. The Soviets had in fact pulled out, and from around 530 hours, the Ukrainian population slowly began congregating in and around the churches, especially St. George's Cathedral, to see the strange band of Ukrainian soldiers that at least temporarily were in charge of the city. At around 700 hours, 2 Soviet planes appeared overhead and strafed the mostly civilian crowd. Everyone took cover, and miraculously no one was injured. Later that afternoon, as the Germans finally entered the city, they were treated as liberators by the population. From the radio station, a mixture of German and Ukrainian music was played, with speeches given thanking the German nation for liberating the Ukrainians. Lieutenant General Lanz would receive an accommodation for supposedly taking the city, which of course is not what had happened at all. The following day, on June 30th, the Nachtigall men then took part in the organization and declaration over the radio of Ukrainian independence. This was all too much for the Germans to swallow, as they had no intention of allowing for the existence of an independent Ukrainian state. As one German officer eloquently put it, "We're glad to celebrate the overthrowing of the Bolsheviks, but the only man who can give Ukrainian independence is Adolf Hitler." If you'd like to see some bonus footage that can't be shown here, remember to go take a look at military1945.com. Thanks for watching.